Of course, these kind of games have a certain lifetime. They last for a certain point and then they get replaced by others. What kind of lifetime does Konami expect from this game? Of course, I know you can't give me like precise figures, but like in terms of a year, 2 year, or like several years, multiple years, even a decade, who knows?
Well, I mean, that kind of thing is really hard to predict. It's entirely up to the player base. We hope that players will like it for a long time and enjoy it just because it's a really fun experience. You know, every online game, this goes for other franchises as well, when they introduce a series and then maybe they iterate on it or they'll support it, they hope that players will be playing from the day they start to their next content point to their next content point. And we just hope that players will just enjoy this game for as long as they can. And we're not going to pick any specific year or date. We're just going to helpfully support them on the way through their experience, and I hope that they enjoy it. And if there are any parts that they're having trouble with, of course, we'll be listening to their feedback so we can hopefully make this game as good as it can be for the entire time that they want to play it.
You know, over the course of making this really long, really intensive video, I've been getting really demoralized. It's not just the fact that Metal Gear Online 3 wasn't the game that I wanted it to be, but it's the fact that the people who are playing it don't care, and now PlayStation has decided to put it up on the PlayStation Store for free, so the player base is flooded over with all this new fresh meat that's ready to play this a magnificent online game that doesn't exist. I'm titling this video The Death of MGO3, and I can't really call it The Death of MGO3 if new people are starting to flood in and play this game and make it live again, right? Wrong. This guy I have zero respect for. I'm sorry, I know you're a community manager and your job is to basically make shitty things sound great, but this game has not been well supported and you shouldn't have even pretended that it has been. The official Metal Gear Online Twitter account hasn't tweeted since April, and they haven't tweeted directly about updating the game since July 21st, 2016. People might be playing it, but the game's not being supported. If that's not dead, I don't know what is. And I swear I didn't plan for this, but apparently the game was having server issues. I tried to sign in on October 5th, 2017 at 11:30 a.m. and I kept getting this error message saying that I couldn't connect to the servers. Now eventually, after a really long wait, I was able to get into a game with active players, but even after that the servers were still laggy. I wasn't able to check my characters or equipment without there being excessive loading times because of the server issue. But then I left the game and turned on Rocket League and was able to get into a match within a matter of seconds. I played through the full match too, I even won, scored a goal. And the experience was just so much more fun! There's a whole lot more that I wanted to say, but now that I'm sort of at my wit's end with this whole experience, I think it would be best to just compare the numbers. Nothing shows more how much Metal Gear Online 3, the next big thing, is lacking than the raw, honest-to-goodness numbers of the whole experience. In Metal Gear Online 3, the final tally is 3 unique characters, 4 game modes, 8 skills, 9 maps, 32 callouts, and 50 pieces of equipment, not including the colors. In Metal Gear Online 2, you have 19 skills, not including the EX or the lethal weapons, which are all separate. 11 game modes, not including interval. 7 unique characters, not including Otacon, which you could use during sneaking mission if you had a lot of players. 15 maps, 87 callouts plus a full text chat system, and 112 pieces of equipment, not including the colors or the various face paints which you could apply to your character after creating them. If that doesn't spell out how much Metal Gear Online 3 is lacking in the content department, then I don't know what will. But it doesn't even end there, because Konami, in its infinite greed, decided to put microtransactions into Metal Gear Online 3, further dividing the little amount of content it had to begin with. You look at the initial Metal Gear Online 3 trailer that they showed, the reveal trailer that made everyone super excited for this game, and they show pieces of equipment in that A, weren't even accessible from the beginning. For some reason, they were rolled out on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis. It was really weird. There was no announcement leading up to it. They just randomly decided to release certain pieces of equipment later on arbitrary days. But then, some of that equipment had to be bought with microtransaction, mother base coins, which you have to pay for like all microtransaction currencies. So for people who don't want to pay real money and instead want to use the fucking gear point system that they already have built into the game mode, you have this split in the economy. Some equipment you can only get with mother base coins, not to mention if you buy a piece of equipment with mother base coins, every single color variant then has to also be bought with mother base coins for some fuck all reason. What's the point of even having gear points if you're going to completely cordon off sections of the content? Let me be absolutely clear. It is impossible to buy these pieces of equipment with regular gear points that you can earn from just playing the game. You have to use the microtransactions and mother base coins in order to buy these pieces of equipment and the color variants. That's also not to mention that Metal Gear Online 3 doesn't separate upper body and lower body equipment, so there's less customizability in general. But then, that's not even the kicker, my friends. The kicker is there are actually 3 different currencies that you can use to play this game, all of which have content that you can only get with that specific currency. You have some pieces of clothing and colors that you can only get with gear points, some pieces of clothing and colors that you can only get with mother base coins, and then, in order to get further money out of you with a gimmick, they released these appeal actions, which are basically these silly little animations you can give to your character to make them dance around and do funny stuff. But guess what? You can't even buy these appeal actions with mother base coins. No, you have to go to the PlayStation Store and buy it from the PlayStation Store using your PlayStation Store credits, which means you have to pay real money for a completely separate currency in order to buy these appeal actions. When the DLC released, I criticized it initially because it had 2 out of 3 maps that were basically copy-pasted from the main game. Yeah, they touched them up a little bit, added a little things here and there. And honestly, Azure Mountain is the worst map in this entire game. It's just a fucking nipple in the middle of a field. There's no strategy to it, there's no sense to it. It's just a bunch of people in a fucking open field trying to shoot each other. It's fucking mind-boggling. But then you have this DLC character, Quiet, only one. Every single expansion pack in Metal Gear Online 2 had at least 2 unique characters added in. So the Cloaked in Silence DLC was $4 for 3 maps and the ability to play as the character Quiet. They sold these appeal packs, which again were just animations. They're basically just like taunts. They sold them in 4 separate packs for $2 each. Buy all 4 packs and you've just paid twice as much as you would have paid for the DLC. Number 1, why weren't these appeal packs just included in the DLC in the first place? And number 2, how do you devalue your own DLC by putting it alongside these stupid animation packs that cost more altogether? Way to say, we don't have much to offer, but buy our shit anyway. So, lackluster content, lack of content, 3 different currencies for the game mode, and you've got a perfect storm for just this cash cow of a thing that wasn't even able to stand on its own 2 feet to begin with. And now it's free on PSN for a month, and I can only imagine all these new players are gonna flock in and start paying money blindly for these microtransactions and stuff. And it's kinda sickening. And it's one of the main reasons why I hate when people say, oh, it's only cosmetic, it doesn't matter. If you took away the gear in Metal Gear Online 2, sure, Metal Gear Online 2 is fun, but part of that fun was getting to buy this new gear with reward points and customize my character. Imagine taking out the clothing in Soul Calibur 5 or even Metal Gear Online 3. What else is there if you take out the cosmetics? It's part of the fun of the game. It doesn't matter if it's only cosmetic. It doesn't matter if it doesn't affect gameplay. It does affect my experience. And if you take that out, if you put it behind a paywall, that hampers my experience in many ways. This really doesn't mean anything, but just to put it into numbers in a way that I think is more digestible. If you added together all the numbers I just listed out for each game, it would be 106 for Metal Gear Online 3 and 251 for Metal Gear Online 2. That means that Metal Gear Online 3 has 42% of the content that Metal Gear Online 2 does. And that's not even accounting for the split content due to microtransactions and real-world currency. Again, you can't really add together numbers like that and make it mean something, but I just think that sort of visualizes it in a way that I couldn't do with simple words. Metal Gear Online 3 is 42% of the game that Metal Gear Online 2 was. Damn. There's so much more I could have said and so much more I would have said, but this video's gone on for too long. I'm sick of talking and I'm sure you guys are sick of listening to me. I came across as really mean in this video and I didn't want to. I think the reason I did is because I'm just so angry. I wanted this game to be so much and it just wasn't. And then you have just random things that I've been dealing with over the course of my experience with this game, like how CQC is utterly fucking broken. I don't know how much of this is due to lag. I couldn't possibly measure it, but CQC in this game just doesn't work. You have people teleporting out of grabs, people fucking grabbing you even though you grabbed them first, you diving out of the way but somehow you teleport into their grab as if they grabbed you in midair. I'm sure if you've just been watching my footage all this time, you would have seen so many instances of CQC that just don't make any sense. You're trying to ape Battlefield, but where are the dedicated servers that Battlefield has? But if you don't give a game dedicated servers, then you have issues like this, where I can seemingly never get a green ping in this game. I can get green pings in many of other games, including Metal Gear Online 2. But for some reason in this game, my ping just isn't ever stable. Neither is anyone else's. Look at this shit. Oops, I wasn't paying attention and forgot to select my loadout. Again, which means I only have a combat knife to get through this entire round. Okay, here's the next test. I want you to look at this clip and tell me what happened. I don't know what happened to me. I was being shot at by one guy but being hit from another direction and then something blew up and then I died. That happens far too often. It's the chaos of a Call of Duty game without the fun of it. But I'm not gonna pretend I've never had fun with this game. In fact, I've had fun with it a lot and it's part of the reason I've kept playing. When you get into a certain lobby with a certain group of people, this game can be unimaginably fun and exciting and tense and you really feel like you're enjoying the experience. Suddenly you're in the zone, you're having one of your best matches ever, you're sneaking around everyone, you're killing all these people, you're really contributing to your team, you're the #1 player on their team, everyone's like, yeah, you go get him, you're the reason your team is winning. And then, right when you think you've had a good time, the host leaves, the room gets disconnected, and that's the game. Oh, by the way, all the experience points you would have gotten for, you know, all of those kills and moves that you did, you don't get those because the match ended early. Not that that was your fault, but you know, what can we do? This is essentially what it feels like to play Metal Gear Online 3. It's got the controls and graphics and presentation of a mechanically superior game, but then it's trying to play copycat all the time, and it comes up short. I was going to have a whole other section called MGO3 Operation Overhaul or something like that, where I detailed patch 1.1, where they basically tried to make the game feel as much like Metal Gear Online 2 as possible. They added the ability to use a combat knife, they added tweaks to the UI and the ability to mess around after the match ended, and they added the ability to press a button in order to tap awake your ally instead of just kicking them awake like you used to be able to do. But I'll suffice it to say that they realized that their community wasn't happy, that the game wasn't the Metal Gear Online 2 successor that they wanted. So the developers of Metal Gear Online 3 just had this last-ditch effort to make the game seem as much like Metal Gear Online 2 as possible. Honestly, in the end, it did make the game more fun, but it all seemed so haphazardly introduced and without balance or real playtesting. And then there's all the glitches that happen with this game that I'm just going to show in montage format because I've done this all in the past before.
Tasted sweet. It let me live. Let me breathe. Love. Hurt so bad, but still saved my soul. Flowers of our brighter past, they bloomed so free.
And then there's the fact that there aren't simple callouts like telling the team to stick together, telling the team to use a wormhole. There's no callouts like that. Simple fucking shit. Part of my whole conspiracy theory was that the development studio didn't have the resources they needed to hire voice actors again. And that was kind of proof that they didn't have the resources to push out a really good game. And my evidence for this was that they had all these callouts and then they released a DLC and it had no new callouts. Instead, they had this stupid preset chat system. Not to mention, as kind of a cynical thing, they released Quiet, who doesn't require new voice acting because she just hums. Spoiler alert, Quiet does speak in Metal Gear Solid 5, so they could have given her callouts. They just chose not to because she's Quiet. Of course she doesn't have callouts. Then there's the fact that the game doesn't have any sort of tutorial whatsoever. It doesn't teach you how to play, it doesn't teach you how to get used to the new game modes. And the game only allows you to get to know the layout of one map without being in a battle. You notice how the game always starts on this Jade Forest map and your character's just sitting down and you get to run around it afterwards? Yeah, you know, I thought it would be cool if you could change the map that you load into so that if I wanted to learn the layout of Black Site or Azure Mountain or Coral Complex, then I could. That's why a lot of times in this video when I was talking about the maps or its layout, I was just using footage from inside matches because there's no way to just explore a map without being under gunfire. Then there's the fact that I'll never know what it's like to play as Eli or the Man on Fire or the third child in Metal Gear Online 3. All these obvious candidates for unique characters who got shafted because the game wasn't complete. Then there's the fact that I'll never know what it's like to experience a snowy map or a snowstorm or something like that in Metal Gear Online 3. But all of that doesn't even begin to compare to the biggest fuck you that came just months after the game came out. Metal Gear Uncle Fucking Survive. Pair that with the news that Konami closed down the Kojima Productions Los Angeles studio, and that settles it. Metal Gear Online 3 is dead. It's no longer being supported. Konami never cared about it. Konami only wanted to release it to get a few extra bucks before moving on to their next thing. And I feel so sorry for the Kojima Productions LA studio, who had to work under these conditions and push out a subpar product that they weren't given the proper resources to support. People gave me some shit when I released my Metal Gear Survive trailer reaction video, but I think I explained it quite well in that video, and I'm gonna explain it again. The real reason I am so unfathomably livid when I think about Metal Gear Survive is not just because of the stain it puts on a legacy, a series that I've loved so dearly. It's because we were promised an online game and an experience that would continue to be supported throughout its lifetime. But Konami turned around and pushed out Metal Gear Survive with the same resources that should have gone to Metal Gear Online 3. This was supposed to be an experience that would be memorable and joyful, and it turned into this hobbled cash cow of a game that was just being used as a stand-in until they released their next product, and we got shafted. But in the end, I guess it's not all bad. Metal Gear Online 2 is available. If you have a PlayStation 3, you can play it. And apparently, if you have a PlayStation 2, you can play Metal Gear Online 1 as well. These genius fucking hacker nerds are the greatest people in the world. They managed to bring back the online game that got me into online games, and I love them so much for that. And I'm going to continue trying to support this community as much as I can, as long as this game is alive. This isn't nostalgia speaking. In this video, I've been using footage of me actually playing through Metal Gear Online 2 for hours and hours, and I've just been having such a blast with it. Sure, the community is toxic sometimes. We still have the same people fighting over who's a better character, who's not, who's a higher level, who's not, and it gets old really fast. But I'm just so happy to be playing the game again that I don't even care. I can customize my character again. I can customize my callouts again. I can enjoy these timeless game modes like Stealth Deathmatch, Team Sneaking, and Rescue Mission the way they were meant to be played. And in the end, I'm having so much more fun enjoying Metal Gear Online 2, which was a game that was given the time, given the resources, and given the care that it needed. And in the end, we have a game with character, with fun, with joy, and with Easter eggs.
Liquid! Are you an otaku?